Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We are breaking down a legendary combat sports event, but this one is straight from the pages of an ancient text. We're going to look closely at the source material to uncover the mechanics, the tactics, and honestly, the sheer brutality of a truly mythic brawl. We're stepping into the arena to analyze an absolutely legendary clash between two titans of the ancient world, Bhima and King Jarasandha.
So what exactly happens when two mythic kings fight non-stop for 14 days? Well, let's dive into this mind-boggling scenario from our source text. We really want to see exactly what a clash of absolute mythological titans actually looks like. We're talking about a fight that completely pushes the very limits of human and mythic endurance. This isn't a battle that just lasts for a few quick rounds. No, it stretches into an unimaginable, grueling marathon.
Part 1. The Challenge and Jarasandha's Choice. Before a single punch is even thrown, we start with a very specific challenge. According to the text, Krishna of the Yadava race approaches King Jarasandha, who is fully resolved to fight. Krishna basically offers Jarasandha his choice of opponent from a group of 3 warriors. And Jarasandha, a monarch of just immense splendor, he immediately zeroes in on the mighty Bhimasana. His reasoning perfectly captures this intense warrior ethos. He actually declares, "I will fight with thee. It is better to be vanquished by a superior person." You see, he isn't looking for an easy way out. He wants to test himself against the absolute strongest challenger available, setting the stage for an epic showdown.
Moving on to Part 2, Battle Preparations and a King's Rituals.
Before any blows are traded, the source text details a fascinating pre-fight routine that honestly feels eerily similar to modern combat sports prep. It's so interesting to see exactly how an ancient king gets ready for a bare-knuckle war. First, Jarasandha strips off his royal ornaments. He takes off his crown and binds his hair tightly, which, are very practical moves for a grappler. Then he applies yellow cow pigment, puts on auspicious floral garlands, and even has a renowned Brahmana perform propitiatory ceremonies with blessings. But here is the crazy part. They made sure to bring various excellent medicines for restoring lost consciousness and alleviating pain. That right there proves Jarasandha knew exactly how brutal this bare arms fight was going to be. He was literally preparing to be knocked out, and he was preparing to suffer.
Now for Part 3, Wrestling Techniques and Ancient Martial Arts.
So with the rituals complete, the combatants finally lock up. And guys, this isn't just a wild brawl. It's a highly technical, completely devastating display. The text uses incredibly vivid imagery to describe the action, beautifully juxtaposing 2 totally distinct styles of movement. On one hand, they're described as roaring like clouds and grasping each other like 2 mad elephants encountering each other with their trunks. It's this image of sheer, raw, unstoppable mass just colliding. But then it shifts. It describes them fiercely looking at each other, dragging and pushing like 2 wrathful lions. This perfectly captures that blend of immense, ground-shaking power with really calculated, predatory aggression.
The crucial takeaway here is that they definitely weren't just wildly swinging their arms around. They were accomplished wrestlers utilizing highly technical maneuvers. One of the grandest feats mentioned in the text is actually called the Prishtabhanga. What this involved was strategically throwing your opponent down face first into the dirt and then using leverage to pin them in that compromised position for as long as humanly possible. It's a move entirely designed to exhaust and humiliate the other guy, establishing absolute physical dominance. This whole sequence brilliantly illustrates the sophisticated blend of mythic strength and tactical striking. The text details other specific grappling feats called Sampurna Murcha and Purna Kumbha, and it gets pretty intense. The fighters are described as twisting each other's limbs as if they were vegetable fibers being braided into cords. That is a terrifying image of joint manipulation. They also utilized feints, pretending to aim at particular limbs while actually landing really heavy blows on unguarded parts of the body. They used their knees and clenched fists to target the innermost nerves of the chest and torso. They even smashed their foreheads together so violently that the text says fiery sparks came out like flashes of lightning. Every single strike was calculated. Every grip was designed to completely break the opponent.
Which brings us to Part 4, the roaring crowd in a packed arena. Because, let's be real, no epic fight happens in a vacuum. Let's see how the surrounding atmosphere builds the tension. The text paints a picture of a truly breathless, jam-packed enclosure. The spectators included thousands of citizens representing literally every facet of ancient society: brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, sudaras, women, and the aged. The crowd was so densely packed it formed one solid mass of humanity, with absolutely no space between bodies. And the noise? It must have been deafening.
As the fighters twined their legs and seized each other's necks, they would loudly slap their armpits as a display of intimidation. The source material tells us this sound, combined with the heavy impacts of the throws, was so loud it resembled the roar of thunder or the sound of falling cliffs. It actually caused the very enclosure to tremble.
Part 5. A 14-day marathon and test of endurance.
Okay, but the most shocking aspect of this entire explainer is the sheer unimaginable duration of the bout. It completely transcends human limits. Charting this out chronologically from the text, we see a test of endurance that defies all logic. The encounter commenced on the first lunar day of the month of Kartik, which aligns roughly with October. The text explicitly states that these illustrious heroes fought on without intermission and without food, day and night, all the way until the 13th lunar day. It wasn't until the night of the 14th day that the monarch of Magadha, Jarasandha, finally began to desist from severe fatigue.
14. Just let that number sink in for a second. 14 days and nights of continuous, bone-crushing, flesh-tearing, nerve-striking combat. No breaks in the corner, no water, no food. 14 days before a single drop of fatigue truly began to compromise the unvanquished monarch of Magadha. It really highlights the absolute peak of mythic conditioning. Finally, Part 6, the strategic finish and Krishna's advice.
This brings us right to the climax of the fight, a moment where sheer physical strength finally gives way to strategic corner advice. When Krishna beholds that the monarch is finally getting tired, he steps in. He addresses Bhima, referred to here as the son of Kunti, with this incredibly fascinating piece of wisdom. He says, "A foe that is fatigued cannot be pressed, for if pressed at such a time, he may even die. Fight with him with thy arms, putting forth as much strength only as thy antagonist hath now left." Now, on the surface, that almost sounds like a call for mercy, right? Asking Bhima to match Jarasandha's weakened state. But in the context of this life-or-death struggle, it is actually a brilliantly coded strategic directive.
Let's break down exactly how this sequence plays out. First, Jarasandha finally slows down after 14 exhausting days. Second, Krishna delivers that veiled warning to Bhima about not pressing a fatigued foe lest he die. Third, the text tells us that Bhima instantly understands the true plight of his opponent. He reads right between the lines of his mentor's advice. Krishna is essentially telling him, he is broken, the window is open, now is the time to finish it. Recognizing this, the fourth and final step happens. Bhima, desirous of vanquishing his hitherto unvanquished foe, musters all of his remaining strength and courage to take Jarasandha's life. He uses Jarasandha's momentary weakness as the perfect opening for a devastating finish.
As we wrap up this explainer, we want to leave you with this final thought. We've just watched two men fight like mad elephants and wrathful lions for 14 days straight. But in the end, it was a whispered piece of tactical advice that actually ended the bout. So what do you think? Does ultimate victory rely more on limitless physical power or the strategic wisdom to know exactly when your opponent breaks? Think about that as you consider what it truly takes to be a legendary champion. Thanks so much for joining us as we explored this mythic text, and we'll see you in the next explainer.